Welcome back. This is our third garden tour video this year already. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kayla and this is 5 Canadian Acres. We're gardening in a Zone 3 in Alberta, Canada. Today is June 17th and it's been about 2.5 weeks since the last tour, so let's get started. As usual, we'll start over here by the peas and you can see we have flowers here and peas, these are the sugar magnolia, so they come out purple like that with the purple flowers. The insides are green. They're very beautiful flowers. On the back, the lettuce is all doing great. This is a romaine lettuce. We've just been taking off the outer leaves and eating. And then this is a black-seeded Simpson that is starting to kind of bolt. You can see it's kind of stretching up the stem there. So we'll maybe get one more harvest off of that and I'll pull it. In front here where I had radishes and spinach, I have just planted some onions. I actually found these. A lot of those big box stores have sales. I found 94 cents for a little 4-inch packed full of onions. So I've planted a whole bunch in all these empty spaces. These ones are a red carpet. I also have a candy and a Walla Walla. Next to that are the radishes that I've let go to seed. They were a French breakfast radish. Now they're putting off these flowers, which will eventually turn into pods that we can eat as well as save seeds from. I did have some peas on the back here. I even replanted, but I think they just got choked out by the lettuce. So while we do have a few coming up, not very much. And then these peas have done really well. These are the snow peas, so they are the flat ones. But if you can notice, these ones are a bit shorter than these ones. These ones are actually from seed from the package. These ones were from Save Seed. After just one season, you can see how much better something that has been adapted to your climate, locally grown, can help. These are a watermelon radish, which haven't really done much for heading up. They take a little longer, but it's been so warm, I'm not really sure what we're going to get from them. And then, of course, the Swiss chard's looking really good. We've picked a little bit off of that as well, just added them to our salads. And then I just threw a couple extra tomato plants here. These are the Sun Golds because we really like that variety. No flowers yet on these onions, but they are going to be flowering for seed for me. We have the marigolds, which are just about to flower probably in the next couple of days. See all the onions in front here and then tomatoes up the back. We're getting lots of flowers already. Got them all labeled. We got 2 Sun Gold here, plus the 2 over there makes 4 because we really like those ones. Then we have 2 of the Sweet Gold, 1 Yellow Pear, and 1 Sunrise Bumblebee. More marigolds just about to flower. And then on the back we have a Gandalf tomato, Amethyst Cream, Amethyst Jewel, a Black Strawberry, 2 of the Atomic Grape. We really like that one too. And then Gobstopper. I actually had a big Gobstopper that died, but my son and I planted just random seeds in pots. Happened to be Gobstoppers, so I took a few out and I have 4 little Gobstopper plants. We'll see what they can grow. My garden cat on the tour with us. And then in front we have all the peppers. These peppers here are a habanada, so that's a habanero that's not spicy. Beside that I have 2 of a Sugar Rush Peach, which are a hot pepper. These are a Frigitello. And then here are a sweet Cubanelle. I'm trying a lot of different peppers this year to see what we like and what grows well. More marigolds, and then at the back here we have cucamelons, and as you can see, they're actually starting to grab on and grab a hold here, and they look really small, but they're just going to take off hopefully really quick here and grow up really nice and big. In front here we have, this is just a sweet bell pepper. See how those grow. And then we have, these are sweet chocolate pepper. These ones are a Torador. And then I actually have a couple more of the habanadas. I had extra, that's why I planted those others down there. And then on the back here is the watermelon. And these ones sprouted first and they're looking really good, but we do have a few more that are sprouted. I'm just gonna let them grow. Even if we get one little watermelon, that'll be good. More peppers. These are the habanero, so those ones will be hot. And some more Sugar Rush Peach. I had extra as well, so I planted those extra down there. And I have 4 here of a paprika pepper. So we're going to be able to dry some and make some paprika, maybe even smoke some for smoked paprika powder. And then I just had 1 little serrano pepper here, and as well back here is 1 cayenne pepper. And honestly, if they live and produce, they will produce enough for what we need. We are not big spicy pepper fans. And then I just planted a few green onions down the side here. Down the back, we have more melons. So these are the Kajari melon. We've gotten a few to sprout there. Nothing came up from my hope melons beside that, but I do have one that I'm not sure if this is a Minnesota midget or a gosh washed down from the hope melon. We'll have to see. These are the Minnesota midget. Beside that is the cantaloupe I got from Save Seed at the seed swap. Finally, at the end here is our farthest north melon, which this was a transplant. It's growing really big. These ones sprouted from seed and they're growing up pretty nice too. Back this way and we can see our pretty rose bush. I've gotten some really beautiful blooms off of it, and then they fade. They kind of go to a white color and fade, but there's been lots of nice new growth. And then we just have random herbs. Wild bergamot, everything's looking good. I planted, this is a bishop's flower. I planted some lemon balm. This here is a oregano. We've got the garlic chives, nodding onions, hard to see there, and the winter onion are looking good. The lavender is looking really nice, spreading out and rooting in. Hopefully it'll survive the winter. And we have some thyme and another batch of green onions I had. And then, of course, the ranunculus all over the front here, which is actually starting to bulb up, as you can see, and we are going to get some really pretty flowers soon. Heading back over here, I still have a few more tomatoes I need to plant. I know it's mid-June, and these ones are like looking really sad, but I'm going to try to find some room to throw them in the ground. But we end here like just some random zinnias I gotta throw. These are my son's calendula he's been growing. We're gonna leave them in there. Some hens and chicks to throw in the ground. These guys in the middle I'm gonna leave. They got some catnip, sunflowers, but my son and I planted some lettuce, which we've been harvesting for salads. Those are those gobstopper tomatoes, as well as some forget-me-nots. I also planted, I just have so many extra tomatoes, I just threw a whole bunch of random ones in pots just to grow. And behind that, we have a really nice looking bed here. We have our carrots, which have grown really well all around of our tomatoes, and they are really coming on strong. You can see we got lots of blossoms. These are the Kalinka Malinka. So I did do a little bit of trimming, but not too much because I think they just need to be bushy. They only grow a couple of feet tall. So I've just kind of left them pretty bushy, and we'll see what we get. I did throw some basil in here too. This is a cinnamon basil I had started. Back there, I think you can see a lettuce leaf basil and then a lemon basil. And we also planted some lettuce seeds in these open spots, see if we get some more lettuce. And besides more pansies, we have all of our King of the North peppers, which are growing really good. Starting to get lots of blossoms on them. And I have one guy over here that we actually, it had a pepper on when I planted it and I couldn't pull it off. So I thought, let's just let it grow, and we're getting a nice good pepper there that we'll be able to harvest in a bit. This is our little kind of deck area. And I do have a few little potted things up, just some flowers and tomatoes and that kind of thing. So when we're sitting out there, we have some pretty things to look at. Well, as you can see, the morning glory over there, which has bloomed, and I haven't seen that yet. Wow. First little bloom off the morning glory. Very pretty. And then in front here we have is our chamomile, which I'm going to probably come and pick some later and start drying it. It's not a huge patch of it, but just every little bit helps. Chive flowers are spent going to seed. This dahlia is hanging in there, but nothing yet on that. Garlic's looking good here. I have a few onions here, and then I did throw some okra seeds in. They say they only take 56 days. We'll see. It's been pretty warm in the middle of June here, so maybe we'll get a little bit of okra there. Here I have 3 shishito peppers. They have flowers that they are all starting to put off, so we'll be getting a good batch of peppers. Beside that are my early flame jalapenos, which again, everything's just putting on their little flowers. These are all the jalapenos. These are the jalapenos that don't get spicy. So we'll be able to mix those with our jalapenos so things aren't so spicy. I am bound and determined to make cowboy candy that doesn't burn our mouths off this year. Cherry tree has just exploded. It will definitely need some trimming next year, but for now, we've got a few little cherries on it. And, you know, we might have 30 cherries, so it's better than the 3 we had last year. Kind of back up here are the cilantro's bolted, gone to seed, and the tarragon is just crazy. I have to pick some of that. The potatoes behind are just growing away. A few more random peppers extra I had, some sweet cubanelles, one of the yellow bananas I had, and another king crimson. I have more of those below. And over to these guys, I planted some fennel seeds there. Again, fennel takes a long time, but I got the space. I'm going to throw it in there. This was an iris that did bloom, and it didn't last very long. It was pretty though. And then I planted a ground cherry because I have another volunteer ground cherry I've left there. Some volunteer marigolds, and then some extra chamomile I had. Let's just grow it here. This is the grapevine, which has exploded again this year. It's going up and out, which is kind of what we want. Eventually we might have a nice little arbor that comes around there, but for now we're just going to let it grow here. And we are getting some grape clusters way over there. They're actually going to turn into little flowers first. Once they flower and hopefully get pollinated, we will have a whole bunch of grapes. The asparagus raspberry bed is looking good. Needs to be weeded, of course. Same with the blueberries. These thistles come in like crazy, but they're getting lots of good growth. I don't think there's any blueberries on that one, but this one, which we do get blueberries from a little bit every year, there are some blueberries here. So we might get more than the 2 we got last year. There's a few down in there too. Then I still got to do something with this nettle. I got some yellow raspberries to plant yet there. Horseradish is just gone crazy. A couple of apple trees I'm just letting grow. I started from seed last year for fun. And this is the dahlia that kind of looked like it was dying, but it's still kind of hanging in there. So I hate to tear it out. We'll see if it'll flower. Down below here are the strawberries, which we have been picking and picking and picking. There's just a ton of them everywhere. So pretty much once a day we're out here picking strawberries. I have a whole bunch in the fridge that is going to be made into some strawberry rhubarb jam. Asparagus is done picking for the year. You can see we put up this frame because it just flops everywhere. You have to let it kind of go to its fronds in order to put energy back down to the roots so they survive the winter and grow again next year. But you really actually have to stake them. I think they're not planted deep enough, which is why they're really floppy. So we're going to try and stake them and see if that will help. Over here, kale's just massive, needs to be cut back, make some kale chips, maybe dehydrate it for some green powder. These are the early Copenhagen market cabbage, which are starting to head up. I just have 2 of those guys. This is a random broccoli, which has not started to head up, which is good because it's been so hot. I was worried. I have some other, I'll show you what happens in the hot heat. This is the red express cabbage, just starting to form a little head. And then we have the kohlrabi here, which is starting to form its little bulb that we will eat. These are the other cabbage. These are the tiara cabbage, which I love. They are a hybrid, but these things do so good. They're not the biggest cabbage, but it will get bigger than this. But this is pretty firm. I could start harvesting these, which I probably will. Over here, not this weed, is a curly Scotch kale, which is one of our favorites as well. As I'm looking at this, it's like, this is not so frilly, but this is frilly. So I'm not sure if this is a different kind that got in the seed packet or what, but we will try it out to see. This is how curly it should look, and it does not look curly. I'm like, it's not a weed because it's coming from where I planted it. So. Mysteries of the garden. And then here's the other broccoli I wanted to show you, and it has bolted. That means it's gone to seed. It never really even formed much of a head. It kind of got stunted when there was in the pots, and then we've had a really warm spring. And this is the Calabrese broccoli. So this is a heirloom broccoli, not a hybrid. Just can't handle that. Over here, I have the Sun King hybrids. And while they are really small still, they haven't bolted yet. So hopefully, it's going to get a little bit cool and rainy here. Hopefully we can get a little bit of broccoli from these guys. One thing that has done really well is this Napa cabbage, which I'm going to have to pick because it's starting, if you can see where this one here, it's starting to, I don't know if it's bolting or just getting eaten by bugs. Yeah, it's bolting. You can see these are kind of, almost looks like little broccoli head flowers. So this stuff's going to get picked right away, which is good because then I'll have an extra bed for some succession planting. And then of course these onions in the front, which again are starting to put up their bulbs so I can save some seeds. And this is why I need to trim up the asparagus too, because it just falls right in the way of the path. But we'll walk down there. I have started the process of laying stuff down to smother the weeds, and we do have a wood chipper. We're going to getting lots of wood chips now. I'm going to throw those all down on the aisle. These are the evergreen bunching onions that I've been overwintering here, and the flowers now are starting to grow little seeds inside. So once these are all dried up, the little black seeds will fall out, and I will be able to save some more seeds. Planted some nasturtiums here, and this is actually the seed on the surface. I'm just going to push that in. I did have a problem with a little cutworm in this bed, and he did get a couple of my beans, but I think we got rid of them now. So these are all my different beans. These ones are all different green beans, and I'm thinking these are a stringless green pod. They seem to have survived the best, as opposed this is a tender green improved. I did lose that one to a cutworm. These are a blue lake bush, which have done all right. And then lastly, we have the provider, which are a little bit behind, it seems. And then I have a little Armenian cucumber there. And my cucumbers over here are looking really good. They're just a tasty green, so one for slicing. Looks like they're going to start to throw off some flowers, and I'll train them to climb up the back. Next here I have a bunch of peppers. We have a King Crimson. These ones are a Poblano, then a sweet Cubanelle, and a Frigitello. And if you see all these little circles, I've planted some lettuce in those, some romaine lettuce. Because, same over here, because then they'll get a little bit of shade from the peppers and utilizing that extra space. And this bed of peppers is what's called a salsa blend. I had a pack of salsa blend peppers, and there's Anaheim and a whole bunch of different kinds. I don't know what is what yet. I'm going to have to wait until the peppers start to grow. But you can kind of see a difference between, like, this one's a little more tall and lanky, this one's a little shorter. So it'll be kind of interesting to see all the peppers mix we get from this guy. Here in this bed, I have more beans. These are all different. Like, I have a dragon tongue bean, and then those are a purple bean, and then these ones are the yellow bean. And then as well, I have cucumbers all up the back, mostly like pickling style, and then a couple fun like lemon apple dragon. I went over all the varieties in my last video if you want to see exactly. But they're growing up, and they're going to grow all the way up the back here as well. My tulip bed, which they're all done for the season now, I'm just going to leave them and things will go back. You can see I've got some of those new wood chips put into that bed. We're going to have to put a lot more in. And the catnip and the yarrow is looking really good. It's just about to flower. It's really pretty. And on this side is the torch, which is like a Mexican sunflower. And it's starting to grow bigger. I don't know when it's going to flower, but supposedly it's really pretty, so that'll be nice. I don't think anything had sprouted here yet when we were here last time, but things are definitely sprouting now. Like here, these are all the zinnias, just a mix of cut and come again zinnias, so we'll have some pretty flowers there. And then if we go all the way back here behind the yarrow, these are all sunflowers, and they're just a shorter mix of different colors. In the middle bed here is a black turtle bean and a little bit of spotty germination. They were a bit older seed, but we do have quite a few. So this is my first time growing the dried beans. We'll see how that goes. And in the back here are 2 rows of the cucumbers, which have sprouted up pretty nicely. You can see actually some of these are littler because this row I didn't have good germination. You can see a few of the bigger ones, and then all the little ones are ones I came in and reseeded with after. But in the back row, if I step over here, you can see we did get pretty good germination, and they're starting to grow nice and big. And this side is all the natural pickling. And over here was the quarantine hybrid. I didn't have enough of those to reseed with, so I reseeded with just a mini white cucumber. And I'll know which ones were the reseeded ones. These Chinese noodle beans are growing up pretty good. I threw a couple of extra tomato plants in there because I had so many. And then also up here are my hanging basket tomatoes. Those are the Rosy Falls. I have one here, turn all the way around, one guy here, and another one here, which yes, I have hit my head on that one when I was weeding down here and planting more tomatoes. These are the Cascade Lemonade pole beans, and they're growing really well. Like this guy, if you look here, he's wrapped himself all the way up there already. So that will be nice to get some pretty colored beans. And then over here are marigolds that I planted, and they're all starting to bloom. I think it's a Queen Sophia. And this is our next expansion. I don't think I had it on the last video, But I have planted beans down here. They are the Blue Lake bush bean, and we're getting some germination on them. And we'll go over left here. This is what we're calling the circle of tomatoes. It's a flipped upside down trampoline. If you saw my video on trellising and such, you'd have seen it in there. I did plant some dill here and here. Nothing sprouted up yet. We did have a lot of rain, so we should be getting some sprouts on them soon. So these ones are all a red tomato, different styles. These are a Tibet Early. These are a Sasha's Altea. And then I have 4 of the Juliet. And I have 2 of these. It's a, I can't even pronounce it. I'm pretty sure I pronounced it wrong in my last video. It's a Principe or something. It's an Italian tomato. It's for sun-dried tomatoes. And then these are a stew piece. And we got, let's see what else. What do we got here? These ones are the Gardener's Delight, which are just kind of, they're a smaller tomato. We have the Roma VF and the Scotia. These are the 2 that I've grown the last few years. And they do really well. They're not the biggest tomatoes, but they produce pretty good in our climate. And then we go over to this squash aisle here. I have 1 little candy roaster squash that I managed to germinate. Hopefully he'll come around. These ones are all a moonshine spaghetti squash, and they're just starting to produce their little flowers. I have a couple here of a sunshine squash, and then a couple butternut, and some butter bush at the end here. And then I also have some calendula here. I guess we can just go right over here to our tomatoes, which if you saw my last video, I showed all about trellising and trimming them up, and they're growing really good. They're actually needing to be staked up probably another time. We're starting to get lots and lots of blooms on them everywhere. So we're going to have a pretty good tomato harvest this year, I think. I did go over all the varieties in my last garden tour again, so if you want to know exactly what's here, you can check that out. And then this is just the last bed we had to get cleaned up, which we did. And I've kind of made it into a perennial bed. We'll see what comes back. This here is marshmallow, so we'll let that grow for a few years and we can start harvesting the root. I've got some borage that was half dead there, but it came around kind of. And then I got some rhubarb to grow nice there. And then we have our mints. I'm not sure which order, but I have 1, 2, 3 different mints, a peppermint, a mint, and a mojito mint. This is chervil. It doesn't live the winter, but it does self-seed pretty readily. Sometimes people say mint can be invasive, but mine has always died on me, so I just want some invasive mint. I want something to just take over and I don't have to care for it. Same with the rhubarb. It can grow as big as it wants because I will have lots to harvest and give away then. And we can go up to our front beds, which are all looking pretty good. Of course, we had a whole bunch of rain. Everything has just grown and taken off, and as you can see, so have the weeds. That's going to be my next chore this week, is all of this lovely weeding I have to do. I have the carrots growing, and they're getting pretty big. They're going to have to be thinned, especially these guys over here are really thick. I did plant those. They're very hard to plant, but yeah, so I'll be thinning those. These peas that I reseeded are all coming up nicely. The one that I had from before is starting to flower, and the peas down here are starting to pop up pretty good too. These ones that are big like this are those sugar magnolia, the purple ones. And I did this last year too, where I grew like 4 to 6 foot tall plants. I didn't really know that that's what these were. Maybe I did. I just ignored it. I don't know. But anyway, I like the sugar snaps. They flower when they're like a foot tall, and they'll flower this whole way up. But for these really tall guys, these trellises are too short, even the one I have them in up top. So I'll know for next year. But these sugar magnolia are more just for show anyways. So if they flop over, that's what it is. And then over here, our celery is looking really good. It's this cooler weather has probably done it really nice. You can see how thick it is coming in the middle there. This bed, you see, it needs to get weeded because these are just onions and they're growing up really good. And then at the end here, I have just a bunch of zinnias. And we have our potatoes, which these ones, again, kind of struggled a little bit. Those ones done really well. But if you look in here, you can see they are starting to flower. Flower fell off, but they're starting to flower here. Once they flower, after a couple of weeks, you can usually start to harvest your new potatoes. You really want to wait for the plants to die back to do your big harvest, but we have lots planted, so we'll be able to enjoy some fresh new potatoes in the next couple of weeks. And the garlic, it's looking really good. It is just starting to put off garlic scapes, as you can see here. This is what a garlic scape is. Comes out of the middle, curls up and around, and it's actually going to form a flower, which we don't want. So I'm actually, now that I see these guys, I need to come out here and get these garlic scapes cut off. These guys here have not started with their scapes yet. I'm going to have to go back and look to see exactly what I planted where, and then I'll know kind of what varieties go earlier. And then once they cut the scape off, I'm going to wait for the bottom leaves, usually the bottom 3 leaves, to die back before I harvest. Probably another month, 6 weeks with the garlic. Beets are looking good. I have been weeding on the beds here, just not in the aisles. At least what needs to be done. You can see a thistle popping up there. But the beets are looking really nice and good. We've got the Detroit dark red, really nice. These are a sweet Merlin, and then over there are the golden beet. Here we have our 2 rows of carrots. Still got more mulching to do. The carrots are coming up good. These are a rutabaga, which is coming in nicely. More rutabaga down the middle. And then at the end here are the turnips, which I probably think I need to come in here and thin. Yeah, I definitely need to come in and thin, because if I don't thin that, they're just going to be really puny. If I go ahead and pick off the ones that are in the way, then I will get a better harvest. See the potato forest over there. They've just gone crazy. And these ones were planted a little bit later, and I don't see much for flowers yet, but it'll probably be pretty soon. In the front here, my squash, we've got 2 little guys. They're looking all right. Although I think that's an imposter right there, if I can tell. No, interesting. Is it? Yes. Look at this imposter. Like, you look like it looks like it's growing out of the plant, but that is not what the things they do. I don't have. We're just starting to to get some little baby zucchinis right there. And then on this side too, I have some. I think the other ones were the green and the coquezel. These ones are a yellow and a yellow patty pan. And then on the end here, these are my pumpkins. I have to come in and trim off these, but this is where they got that frost damage. But they were barely knocked back. They've just gone like crazy. And if we look in here, you can see again, they're starting to grow their buds to flower. These ones here are those white pumpkins. And then we have my ones I always grow, the Howden pumpkins, coming along. This is the volunteer dill that was beautiful. We love dill. I don't know about you, but to me, just dill smells like summer. At the end here, we have the other pumpkin that I planted. I think it was a Howden. I still actually have not come in here and thin these. I might not. I think I'm just going to let them just grow and do their thing. Hopefully we can get these guys to grow across. We'll move the fence, but I did want to show you, even when you lay tin and pallets, stuff, that's stinging nettle, it just finds its way through any little crack, no matter what. Kind of crazy how they can just do that. Like, the stuff along the edge makes sense, but this one is just right in the middle. And then you hate to pull it because it wants to live so bad, but probably pull it and put it in my nettle compost tea to feed back to the garden. Finally, our last little bit at the end here, where we had the 3 sisters last year, and this year I'm just doing corn and a little bit of wheat. We don't really eat a lot for pole beans, and I have lots of room for squash over there. But the corn is looking really good. Derek, my husband, mowed the lawn here, so I've been grabbing the grass to use as mulch, and I did a little short on that. You could see how much the mulch really does help retain the moisture. And again, this is the Simonette corn. It's looking really good. Nothing for tassels at all yet. Just, it's got to grow. It's been hot and dry, and then we had a lot of rain. And a lot more rain coming this week. So we are in the thick of the growing season. This is the Tom Thumb popcorn. So that's going to be just the little tiny cobs. Like, they're like this big for popcorn. And this grassy looking stuff, this is the black einkorn wheat. So it looks like not the best. I think a lot of that must have washed down over here. I'm going to let that grow. And then if we can get it to fruition to get some mature seeds from it, we can have more to plant next year. And at the end here is that Country Gentleman corn, which I was surprised. I mean, they're like 3 or 4 year old corn seeds from the dollar store. And we did get some decent germination. And this is a white corn, so it'll be a little bit different than the other stuff. If you've watched my last few garden tours, you will see how much it has grown just in the last 2 weeks. And if you haven't watched them, go ahead and check them out because it is just crazy how quickly things grow this time of year. Don't forget to subscribe so you can watch all the following garden tours as stuff really starts to grow and the harvests come in. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.